The dirty secret of success, why the worst reach the top, Nietzsche, why evil wins. Why do ruthless people often succeed while kind souls are left behind? In this journey, we dive into the unsettling truth about how power works, and why the world rarely rewards goodness the way we expect. Inspired by Nietzsche's unflinching philosophy, we confront life's harsh realities without losing hope. This video isn't just about exposing injustice, it's about finding your inner strength, creating your own meaning, and thriving even when the world feels unfair. Stay with us as we explore how to live with unshakable courage, to build a life rooted in truth, and to forge a destiny that's truly your own. If you've ever felt disillusioned by the world's unfairness, this is the roadmap back to yourself. Let's dive deep together, you won't want to miss this. Why do the worst people often win? Have you ever wondered why deceitful, ruthless people who have no qualms about stepping on others often rise to the top? Meanwhile, those who hold on to kindness and honesty are left behind, worn down by disappointment. This question not only stirs bitterness but also exposes a profound paradox of life. We grow up believing that justice will prevail, that kindness will be rewarded. But once we step into the real world, that belief is quickly torn apart by harsh realities. It is those who dare to lie, to manipulate, to act without mercy, who often seize the highest positions. Friedrich Nietzsche saw through this early on. He did not paint the world in rosy hues. On the contrary, he forced us to look directly at the true nature of power, at the hidden games few dare to acknowledge. Success is not handed to the most deserving but to the bravest, those courageous enough to accept that life is inherently unfair and to act accordingly within that unfairness. But does recognizing this brutal truth mean we must abandon goodness, abandon morality? Or is there another path, where we can clearly perceive the harsh nature of the world yet still preserve the light within our souls? This story, if followed to its end, will not only reveal painful truths but also open a door to healing, a way for us to survive, grow, and find meaning, even in an unforgiving world. When reality unfolds, the world is not fair. We are raised on fairy tales, where justice always triumphs and evil is always punished. But the older we grow and the deeper we step into real life, the more we realize a harsh truth: the world does not operate by the rules of fairness. The righteous are not necessarily honored. The kind do not always succeed. Sometimes, those who dare to bend the rules are the very ones who ascend to the podium of glory. Nietzsche did not embellish a just world. He exposed the raw nature of life. Strength, not kindness, is the currency of the game of power. Those who dare to act, those who dare to cross the boundaries of traditional morality, are the ones who can bend the world to their will. Facing this truth, many fall into feelings of helplessness, disillusionment, even despair. For how can one live a good life when goodness goes unrewarded? Yet it is precisely in confronting this painful truth that we find an opportunity, the opportunity to grow up. When illusions collapse, we are free to build a new, more realistic, and stronger perspective. Understanding that the world is unfair does not mean we must lose ourselves. Rather, it means we stop depending on hollow promises and start forging true inner strength. And from here, a new journey begins. The journey of living within an unfair world without letting our soul be tainted. Nietzsche and the exposure of the nature of morality. Nietzsche did not view morality as an eternal truth. For him, morality was a social construct, created to serve very practical purposes. He saw that not all values praised by society actually aim at nobility or progress. Often, morality is just a sweet shell hiding fear and weakness. Humility is praised not because it strengthens people, but because it keeps them submissive. Sacrifice is glorified not to liberate anyone, but to maintain an outdated order where power belongs to the few. Nietzsche stared this reality in the face without turning away. He challenged the so-called universal truths of morality, forcing us to ask, do the values we follow truly serve our inner growth, or do they simply make us more compliant in a world that does not care about justice? Asking this question is not about becoming a meaningless rebel, but about opening a path to true freedom. Freedom does not lie in rejecting everything, but in the ability to choose and rebuild our beliefs based on deep understanding, not fear or habit. Recognizing that morality can be a tool of control is the first step toward healing. No longer bound by externally imposed illusions, we can begin to listen to ourselves. What truly gives our life meaning? What truly makes us grow? Morality, the sweet trap that makes us weak. We often think of morality as the firm foundation of a good life. But Nietzsche pointed out that sometimes blind faith in traditional moral values turns us into willing captives. When we believe too easily that humility, sacrifice, and obedience are the paths to success and happiness, we overlook our deepest needs, the need for self-assertion, the need to create our own unique value, the need for true maturity. The trap of traditional morality does not lie in the virtues themselves, but in how they are exploited to maintain an order that benefits the powerful. The obedient are praised. The rebellious are condemned. And so, generations are raised with the belief that submission is a virtue, and that demanding justice for oneself is selfish. But awakening begins when we realize morality is not always truth, it can be a tool. At that point, we stand at a crossroads, continue living by pre-programmed patterns, or dare to question and seek a true path of our own. This realization can initially be overwhelming. But if we endure the shock, we gain the opportunity to begin a healing journey, a journey back to intrinsic, unborrowed values. A journey to live not for acceptance, but for the genuine desire to become our truest self. Power belongs not to the good, but to the bold. In the real world, success is not distributed according to moral worth. Good people do not automatically win just because they are good. The world does not hand power to the gentle but to those who are brave enough to act, to be decisive, to seize the position they desire. Nietzsche forces us to confront a raw truth: those who hesitate, who wait for natural justice, are often left behind by those who dare to bend the rules. This is not a call to become ruthless. On the contrary, it is a reminder that if we rely only on kindness, if we wait for the world to adjust itself to fairness for us, we will sink into disappointment. For in reality, power is not a reward for virtue, it is the fruit of initiative and relentless determination. But this does not mean that success requires abandoning values. What Nietzsche evokes here is a more powerful idea: that we can act boldly while preserving our humanity within. That we can conquer without betraying ourselves. Awakening to this truth is the first step of healing. When we stop expecting automatic rewards for kindness, we begin to build a new inner strength, sturdier, more realistic, more proactive. We no longer live as victims treated unfairly by the world. We become active participants in the game, carrying a heart that still holds firm to its true values. Perhaps this is the foundation for finding the deepest meaning of life, to act not for reward, but because we know that each step we take is carving the true shape of our life. Part 6. The silent qualities of those who reach the top. In the real world, success does not stem from absolute honesty or pure kindness. Nietzsche clearly saw that those who climbed to the top shared certain silent qualities that not everyone dares to face. They have the ability to make quick decisions without being paralyzed by fear or guilt. They do not wait for the crowd's approval. They are not bound by the illusion that goodness alone will naturally be rewarded. These individuals are not necessarily bad people. They are simply those who see the world as it is, not as they wish it to be. They do not waste time lamenting injustice. Nor do they fall into the trap of believing that if they are kind enough, success will come automatically. They understand that power is a game for those who actively shape reality rather than wait for it to change. But does recognizing this mean we must abandon sincerity? The answer is no. Awakening to the true nature of the power game does not strip us of our humanity if we know how to maintain a strong internal center. We can learn from successful people the qualities of decisiveness and spiritual independence without copying their coldness or callousness. Healing begins with the realization that we do not have to choose between weakness and cruelty. There is a third path, where we develop resilience and willpower without betraying ourselves. This path demands that we dare to act, dare to face reality, and dare to make an impact, all while staying true to our real values. This is the foundation of sustainable strength. Strength that does not rely on subjugating others but on the ability to stand firm even when the world has nothing left to offer. When power is built on deception, and the price to pay. There are those who reach the heights not through real talent, but through deceit, manipulation, and the exploitation of others' trust. They bend the truth without hesitation, trample others without remorse if it helps them advance. In Nietzsche's eyes, such individuals are living proof of the cold workings of real-world power. Power does not require morality, only effectiveness. But behind these rapid successes lies another truth Nietzsche did not ignore: power built on deceit comes at a price. Such people often end up destroying themselves through arrogance, insatiable greed, and the isolation they have created. Empires built on deception often collapse under the storms they themselves have sown. This offers us a profound lesson. Sustainable power cannot be built by betraying personal values. If we achieve success by betraying ourselves, the price will always silently pursue us, demanding payment when we are most vulnerable. Healing does not mean closing our eyes to the fact that deception sometimes brings short-term benefits. Healing means understanding that, in the long run, only sustainable values can nurture a meaningful life. Honesty and integrity, not as masks to impress others, but as deep internal roots, are the true foundations that help us stand firm when all else collapses. In a world where deceit often seems to prevail, holding true to oneself is a silent but profound victory. For when our strength is rooted in truth, no one can easily defeat us. Übermensch, a model beyond a weak society. Nietzsche did not merely expose the bitter truths of the world. He proposed an escape. The image of the Übermensch, the overman. Not one who dominates others through brute violence, but one who transcends outdated moral bindings and collective illusions to live a life of true freedom and purpose. The Übermensch does not seek approval from the masses. They are not shackled by norms created to comfort the weak. They do not rebel blindly nor rage against the world. They create new values, redefine the meaning of life, and live fully according to these values, even if the entire world turns its back on them. In a society prone to compromise and blame-shifting, the Übermensch takes full responsibility for their own life. They do not need promises of future justice, nor illusions of deserved rewards. They choose to act now, to create meaning for their own existence. This does not make them emotionless. On the contrary, it is their courageous confrontation with reality, without fleeing, without self-delusion, that allows them to develop an unshakable inner strength. Healing, in the spirit of the Übermensch, is not about seeking to return to a safe world. It is about learning to stand firm in the real world, full of injustice and chaos, while keeping one's inner flame alive. We do not need to become great heroes. It is enough that each day, we take a small step on our own path. That each moment, we remember our value lies not in others' eyes but in the silent steadfastness we dedicate to our own life. 3 steps to break the chains and define your life. Nietzsche did not leave us with an easy road. He pointed to 3 steps, each demanding tremendous courage. The first step is to abandon the illusion that the world will operate fairly if we are good enough. This is not easy. It is a painful process when our deepest beliefs are stripped away, When innocence must give way to awareness. But it is precisely at this moment that we taste true freedom for the first time. The second step is to develop the will to power over oneself. Not power to dominate others, but power over one's own life, the ability to navigate life independently. The ability to stand firm when all old comforts collapse. This will does not come from external enforcement, but from a profound determination to take full responsibility for one's destiny. And the final step is to create new values. Instead of living by inherited societal templates, the Übermensch asks, what truly holds meaning for me? What do I live for? And for whom? This is not shallow rebellion but creative action from the heart, forging a purpose strong enough to light even the darkest nights. These 3 steps are not a path everyone will choose. They offer no promise of safety or guaranteed victory. But for those who dare to walk it, they open a form of freedom that the world rarely offers, the freedom to live a life truly one's own, no longer chained by fear, expectation, or empty promises. It is a journey not for the faint of heart, but it is the only journey for those who thirst for a life of real meaning. Neither exploiting nor being exploited, but creating. In the world Nietzsche described, it often seems there are only 2 choices. To exploit others or be exploited by the stronger. But there is actually a third way, the way of the creator. Instead of falling into the power games based on conquest and domination, we can choose to shape the world through what we build, not through what we destroy. Creation, at its deepest level, is an act of defiance against cynicism and bitterness. When we create something, an idea, a work of art, a new way of living, we refuse to be a pawn in someone else's game. We declare, we do not need to repeat the old patterns of oppression and fear. We are strong enough to write our own story. Nietzsche did not call us to destroy this world. He called us to transcend it by building our own, even if only within the scope of our small individual lives. And that is an act of profound healing, because instead of wasting energy lamenting injustices we cannot change, we dedicate ourselves to creation, to nurturing. To making our life a living testament that there is another way to exist. We do not have to be victims. Nor must we become oppressors. The creative path demands more courage than any other. Because it starts by facing emptiness, facing injustice, and choosing to create something of value anyway. In that act of creation, we reclaim our agency and rediscover the power to shape the meaning of our own lives. And that is the most enduring strength, one that no external force can ever take away. Inner power, the strength hat makes you unshakable. There is a kind of power that cannot be seen or measured. Yet it endures longer than any throne. It is inner power. Nietzsche believed that true strength does not lie in controlling others, but in mastering oneself. Those with inner power are not swayed by praise or criticism, not dragged down by failure, nor swept away by temporary victories. This power does not stem from coercion but from self-mastery. No one can strip away the courage of someone who has learned to stand firm in solitude. No misfortune can destroy the will of someone who has stopped seeking validation from the external world. Such individuals do not need weapons to protect themselves, for they have built the strongest fortress, a spirit that cannot be bought. A heart that no longer fears. Reaching inner strength is a grueling journey. It demands that we confront ourselves with all our weaknesses and unhealed wounds. But it is precisely through this journey that we begin to see, every pain becomes a brick helping to construct the fortress of the soul. Healing is not merely about soothing old wounds. Healing is learning to rise after loss. Learning to stay grounded through uncontrollable changes. When we no longer rely on circumstances to determine our value, we are truly free. And from that freedom, a silent source of power is born. A strength that no one can grant and no one can take away, the strength of someone who truly belongs to themselves. Will you wait for justice or forge your own destiny? The final question Nietzsche poses to us is not an easy one. will you continue to wait for a fair world, or will you take the reins and rewrite your own destiny? Most of us are taught to be patient. To hope that justice will come to the good, that truth will naturally prevail. But reality is much harsher. Those who merely wait are often swept away by life's unpredictable tides. Nietzsche did not call for the abandonment of goodness. He called for the abandonment of naivety. When we stop expecting an invisible hand to save us, we finally take hold of the steering wheel of our lives. When we stop blaming an unjust world, we begin to build a small world within our own soul, a world where we set the principles, the values, and stand firm even amidst outer chaos. Waiting for justice is handing over the power of our fate to uncontrollable forces. Forging destiny is a painful but liberating act. It demands that we take full responsibility for what we do, for who we become. No one to blame. No one to hope for. Only ourselves, and the path we carve beneath our own feet. This is not an easy choice. It demands profound maturity. The courage to abandon false safety, to face uncertainty, and above all, to believe that even in an unjust world, we can still live a life full of meaning, because we are the ones defining it. Healing the soul after harsh truths are revealed. Facing the truth that the world is unfair, that goodness does not guarantee success, that justice does not appear naturally, is a deeply painful experience. It can lead us into doubt, into coldness toward life, even into losing faith in ourselves. But this is also a threshold. We can either shut our hearts to defend ourselves or choose to step through and find a deeper way to heal. Healing after awakening is not about returning to old naivety. It is a new journey. Learning to accept that pain is an inseparable part of growth. Each time an old belief collapses, a new opportunity opens, a chance to build a deeper, sturdier foundation. Based on our own experiences rather than borrowed ones. Healing does not mean forgetting injustice, nor does it mean ignoring pain. Healing means daring to look directly at our wounds. Daring to acknowledge the cracks within, and from there, gradually learning to trust again, not in the world's promises, but in the miraculous resilience of our own soul. Each time we choose not to numb our emotions against bitterness, each time we persist in seeking beauty and meaning in a chaotic world, we are stitching ourselves back together. Not with illusions, but with resilience. Not with empty promises, but with small, steadfast steps toward a life truly our own. Inner healing is a silent, often lonely work. But precisely because of that, it is the most precious work, the quiet act of a heart that refuses to collapse before the world. Rediscovering the meaning of life and building unbreakable strength. When all illusions about natural justice shatter, when old values no longer uphold us as they once did. It is not the end. It is the beginning of a new journey, the journey of creating meaning for ourselves. Nietzsche did not just point to the collapse of old norms. He lit another flame, the idea that we can, and must, become the creators of meaning in our own lives. Meaning is no longer something granted from the outside. It is no longer tied to societal recognition or the invisible rewards we once hoped for. True meaning arises from conscious action. From how we choose to live each day, from the soul we pour into every small task, from daring to turn our life itself into a worthy masterpiece. When we actively create meaning, instead of seeking it as a reward, we begin to build an unbreakable strength. Because that meaning is tied to the deep values we voluntarily choose and commit to, despite adversity. Despite the world's indifference. True healing happens when we stop asking, "Why is the world unfair to me?" and start asking, "What value will I create in my life today?" This question, asked day after day, slowly resurrects us, not into perfect beings, but into resilient ones, luminous beings who no longer need anyone's permission to exist. Meaning is not something we find at the end of the road. It is created by every step we take, by the small but magnificent daily acts of living consciously, with courage. And with a heart that stays open, even when the world closes in. The journey is yours. We have traveled a long path. From facing the bitter truths of the world to rediscovering the light within our souls. Nietzsche did not offer us sweet promises. He showed us that to truly live, we must dare to look reality in the face, to sweep away comforting illusions, and from there, to build a life of worth. Healing does not depend on the world becoming more just. Healing lies in becoming stronger in the face of injustice. The meaning of life is not something given to us, it is a gift we create for ourselves. Through conscious action, through each moment we choose to live with courage. No one can walk this road for us. But neither can anyone take away our right to choose how we walk it. Each day, we have the power to build strength from what once hurt us. Each day, we can choose to create value, even amidst chaos. And each day, we can choose to love ourselves, not because we are perfect, but because we are brave enough to keep moving forward. This journey promises no ease. But it promises this, that if we persevere, one day we will look back and realize, we did not merely survive. We truly lived. And that is the greatest victory of all.